1. Fight!
Welcome to Focus on B, the video series where I spent about 20 or so minutes playing and talking about a game that I've got some thoughts on that I've been playing recently. This is Tekken Tag Tournament for the original, for the PlayStation 2, released all the way back in March of 2000. Well, this is the third revision of the Japanese version because I like my authenticity sometimes. Well, when there's no language barrier. I don't really think there's a language barrier with a fighting game. You kick guy in face. In fact, most of the game is in English, funnily enough. The voice acting, the little bit that there is, the text, so it's a fairly easy game to jump into with someone who doesn't speak Japanese. But, you know, I don't really do a lot of fighting games on this channel. That is because they tend to go against one of my personal favorite things about any video game and what you can do with the medium, and that is a sense of adventure, a sense of traveling somewhere. Now, you're probably thinking, well, there's plenty of fighting games, including Tekken, that have themes of traveling across the world. Yeah, but it's one thing for the background to change to a different place. It's another thing for you to actually be moving physically to a different place. Well, why the hell am I playing this? It's because I actually quite like Tekken Tag Tournament. For one, I find it's a very interesting game in the sense that it actually didn't start out the way that it is in its current form. If you didn't know, Tekken Tag Tournament was initially a 1999 arcade title, much in the same vein as the rest of the Tekken games, you know, before being ported to the PS2, and it saw an absolutely massive graphical facelift. This game doesn't look nowhere, it basically just looks like an expanded Tekken 3 on the arcades. And I've actually played the original arcade version via MAME, because I wasn't alive when it was still in the arcades. But honestly, this is such an incredible showcase of the PS2, and this is a fucking PS2 launch title for Japan. And yet, it looks, still I'd say, it still looks really good. The lighting is fantastic, the character models are very well animated. Like, obviously it doesn't look as good as Tekken 5 on the PS2, yeah, but that's a late PS2 title, so no shit. But it's fantastic considering the standards of the time, and it's still, I'd say, is very appealing. Like, Namco were absolutely killing it in this department. None of the Mortal Kombat games from the same generation were able to even get to half of what this game looks like. Like, it's incredible, just the prowess of, not, you know, obviously runs at 60 FPS as well, which is a must for fighting games, and obviously most of that, in this game at least, was probably achieved by, well, thanks to the fact that, as you can clearly see, the backgrounds are a little bit janky looking, if that makes sense. They're like these weird parallax backgrounds without any real, like, there's no actual 3D going on. I think those models in the back are genuinely 3D because, as you can tell by the fact that I'm upscaling this, they look a lot sharper than they would at native PS2 resolution. Also, I haven't even fucking utilized the game's main gimmick yet, and that is, well, I can switch characters to this one instead. I haven't picked them based on how good I am, I just picked them at random. I really am not great at this game at all. Fortunately, you do get a nifty little command list when it's all in Japanese, because of course. But really though, it's like I can just go like this, and that's a cool move. I think so. And then what I do is I fixate on just performing one of the moves that I saw in the vague attempt to try and win, despite the fact that I'm probably better off utilizing a greater variety of moves that I already know, as opposed to trying really hard to pull off one particular move that I have a hard time with. Also, let me just turn down the freaking volume. Although, speaking of volume, even though I've turned the music down a little bit for this video because I do feel like the default audio mix is a little too music heavy, the soundtrack in this game is absolutely fucking amazing. And that is one thing that Tekken, I don't care who you ask, will always have over, honestly, any fighting game series. I'm not super familiar with the soundtracks of Dead or Alive because I don't really care for Dead or Alive. I mean, outside of the two reasons, well, many pairs of reasons why you want to care for that series. Mortal Kombat, though, honestly, other than like the da-dun-da-da-da-da-da-da, doesn't really stand out to me too much for its music. I know that the Deception, I think, had some pretty cool metal riffs, but that's about it. Street Fighter has some iconic music, of course, but fuck me, the Tekken just has such an awesome, clean sense of style. Like, especially, I love the opening theme to this game. It's just the essence, like, it's one of my favorite musical aesthetics in general. Like, this really Game Boy Advance-y sounding bass line with this really, it's a big yet thin sounding synth on top. It's very crystal clear. It's this beautifully clean and transparent sort of aesthetic, which I really, really enjoy. You know, it's It's not even like, oh, it's so early 2000s. No, it feels timeless. It doesn't feel dated at all. Like, when I think early 2000s in a dated sort of way, I think like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dun. Oh, okay. Admittedly, that song, My Own Summer, that song came out in 97, but still, it's like you instantly associate it with the 2000s, don't you? But anyway, so what about the game itself? Why do I actually, here's the thing. Being a kid, right, when I was a kid, I really, really liked the Mortal Kombat games. Why? Because blood. Because blood is cool. Violence, ooh, and it, you know, some of the games genuinely do have some really cool looking fatalities and stuff, but as I grew older, I genuinely started to prefer the style and the gameplay, primarily, of the Tekken game. I mean, it doesn't show it because I'm fucking trash at this game, as you can see, but I haven't played it in quite some time, actually. Like, when I say games that I've been thinking about, been playing, usually it's just been thinking about not actually playing, because I haven't played this game in months. But that doesn't mean I don't want to spend some more time with it, because I really, really like it. And the thing about Tekken is that it's really strange how it's simultaneously... Yes, I'm playing on easy mode, obviously. It's simultaneously complicated. It's got a lot of depth to its mechanics. No mind. No, fucking love this track as well. And yet... the gameplay is actually simple, fundamentally, as in you only have these 4 attack buttons, right? You have left arm, left leg, right leg, and you can pause at any time and look at your moves and be like, ah, okay. So if I go down, circle, what? So, like, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck you're talking about. So it's like you hold circle and you, like that? No? Ah, there you go. See, I did something. You get what I mean? And you instantly feel like you're improving, and it's not really that much of a matter of remembering the moves, because you can actually improvise a lot, since most combinations of buttons yield some kind of ability, some kind of move. It's not so special move focused like it would be in Mortal Kombat, or even Street Fighter, although I honestly don't have much experience with Street Fighter. The extent of my Street Fighter experience would be... the little bit that I've played of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, I think it was called, that HD one with the really high quality sprites. I've played a bit of that one, and I've also played a fuck ton of Mugen with some Street Fighter characters, and I played this weird, like, fan-made Mugenified version of Mortal Kombat, which was like, basically, it was Mugen, but it was all Mortal Kombat characters, except it also had a bunch of extra characters. And one of them was Akuma from Street Fighter, and he was just an absolute meme. You would just hit random buttons, and he would just do the dumbest shit, and it was amazing. It was like my favorite fucking thing to play. But in terms of actual fighting games, yeah, I've really gravitated towards the way the Tekken games play. I haven't played many of them. I've only played 1, 2, 3, this one, obviously. I've played Tekken Tag Tournament 2 as well, just a tiny bit. And that's about it, actually. I can't really say I'm dying to keep up with the series, so to speak. You know, I'm not really the kind of person, unless I'm, like, extremely dedicated to one particular series, I don't really keep up too much. I just pick the games I like, and that's it. I'm not gonna go ahead and play all the most recent ones, because I just don't care that much, and my hard drive wouldn't be happy about it. It's like, if I actually were to keep up with all of the latest entries of all the new games, because games are pretty chunky nowadays, don't you know? But still, though, I can't really... Hold on, what was I going with this? I've completely lost my train of thought at this point. But the point is that, I don't know, I really enjoy trying to figure out how to play this game properly, but you can still kind of get away with button mashing, because some of the moves, as you can see... Look at this. Square, 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 square. That's a genuine move. X, X, X. Triangle, triangle, oh, sorry, cross, I guess. Triangle, triangle. You know, it's like... Some of the moves genuinely are just a little bit of button mash. And, I don't know, I guess that works for my sensibilities of how I want to play a game. Not to mention that, back to the style, it's really interesting how when you get older, you start to prefer things that aren't as overtly aimed towards an older audience. As in, I find Mortal Kombat to be kind of... Like, there's a reason why the more recent Mortal Kombats actually aren't quite as edgy or, you know, risque in any way. I mean, remember Mortal Kombat 9? Holy shit. I mean, not only was that game gruesome, of course, and it's cool... But some of the character designs, like, fuck me. They toned that down, and I can actually see why. It gets cartoony, it gets ridiculous, right? But Tekken's never... Well, Tekken can be funny. Tekken has a really good sense of humor sometimes, admittedly, and can be a lot more anime, because it's Japanese, and it's very distinctly anime, right? But at the same time, I feel like I have an easier time taking Tekken's universe a little bit more seriously. Also, this is another one of my favorite tracks. hold on. I'm not going to shut up because you're not going to be able to hear it because I've turned down the... I should probably... Fuck. I should have probably changed characters. The game can lock you out of changing characters during the animation, I assume. I don't know. There's all these, like, fighting game terms. I used to watch a lot of videos about fighting games trying to understand them. Because the thing is, fighting games are like a fucking sport, you know? Like MOBAs, like Dota, or whatever you want to call it. It's ironic how actual sports video games don't seem to have that much of a competitive scene, whereas games that are the furthest thing from that, you know, like Counter-Strike, for example, it's like, is super competitive. I've always found that strange, and fighting games as well. Especially the ones you'd never expect to become competitive like Melee. It's like, you'd think it'd be some super hardcore Japanese-only exclusive game, but no, it's a fucking game about Mario punching the shit out of Yoshi. And it's the best thing ever, honestly. You know what? I've actually never been the biggest fan of Melee. I've always liked Melee well enough, and I kind of like how it's a little bit dark sometimes. I mean, it was the game that introduced Giga Bowser, you know? But at the same time, I'm a Brawl boy, you know? I loved Brawl when it came out. I never really played it until many years later, but I loved watching videos about the Subspace Emissary and stuff like that. Like, my experience with Brawl was very vicarious, so to speak. Although I have played it. I've played all of them, come to think of it. I've played, yeah, every single one up to Ultimate with my friends. And, wow, Ultimate with friends is just... It's the best reason to have friends. Let me tell you that much. Anyway, so... I really enjoy whenever I find a game that belongs to a genre that I would typically never... Hell no, I wouldn't say that the fighting game genre is one that I'd never want to touch, because I've played a ton of fighting games, actually, just never really got too far into any one of them, if that makes sense. And that's because, again, they kind of go against my... The main thing that attracts me to video games to begin with, that whole sense of journey. Oh, I forgot about the way this character works. They constantly regenerate their health, and I have no idea how you're supposed to actually... Okay, I guess we beat him. Are we gonna watch the cutscene? I win. Yeah, sure. Let's check out the cutscene. I'll get on with my point later. What's gonna happen? Oh, we get a little replay, and then what happens after that? Do we just... I don't know. We're gonna find out. Oh, Tekken Tag Tournament. Yeah, fuck it. We're just gonna... Oh yeah, I forgot. You get these cool little cinematics. They're not cinematics. They're actually in-engine. I love how when you're playing the game at a higher resolution, you can see how the shadows are a lower polygon count because, well, obviously, why would they... That's funny. You see, I told you, this game has a sense of humor. Alright, we can skip that shit. Namco, yeah, I know Namco. Can you please stop unmaking Miss Pac-Man? I refuse to accept this whoever the fuck new character that you're trying to implement into the Pac-Man games. I know that's the only reason why you remade Pac-Man World. Anyway, speaking of which, I think that remake was quite well received, wasn't it? It fixed a couple of the issues the original game had, but if I were to play it, I'd probably still play the original, honestly. Let's do someone else, someone I've never played in this game before. I don't know, let's do this guy? No, let's do Heihachi, because he's cool old man. And let's do, what the fuck is that? That is a very detailed vest texture for the year 2000, can I just say? Now let's do, Yoshimitsu. Because he's a cool samurai with a robot, and I love how inconsistent the art direction is on all of these character portraits. It's like some of them look like 3D anime characters, others look like hyper-realistic actual people, and it's so fucking... It's such a clash of styles, and I adore that kind of stuff. But anyway, so... It really is a pleasant surprise whenever a game like this kind of makes me jump a little bit out of my comfort zone of genres that I like. Because, you know, my main genres are like, I like platformers, I like racing games, I like some shooters. And that's about it. But, this is a fighting game, and here I am playing the fuck out of it in a fighting game that isn't Smash Bros. Because Smash Bros is like, it's just everyone loves Smash Bros. Like, people who don't like racing games like Mario Kart, you know what I mean? That just has that appeal. But this is a very fighting game, and yet here I am still playing it because I don't know. It's the combination of the mechanics, the presentation, the simplicity, the fact that when you set it to easy mode, it's actually easy and not like lying to you. Because it took quite a few years for games to genuinely make it so their difficulties reflect the difficulty. Because you know how it is, right? Like, you pick a fucking shooter from the late 90s, you set it to easy mode, and it's actually still really, 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 really hard, right? You set it to hard mode, and it might as well be impossible. It took a couple years until they actually started to to label their difficulties the way they should be labeled, as in, you know, they were not impossible when you set it to easy. And that's what this game does too. I'm on easy mode right now. As you can see, I'm absolutely whooping ass, no fucking problem, and it's fun, right? But the thing is, I would genuinely like to turn the difficulty up later on to try and I'm gonna assume that was my win. Okay, to try and get better, because I feel like I have a chance of getting better, because there's not really that much to learn. Well, there is, but it all feels it's simple and well laid out. I don't think there's anything that would require me to become some fucking CRT lugging around type, you know, competitive player to still play the game relatively well. All I really have to do is consult this list and think, okay, how can I fuse these moves together in an interesting way that allows me to overcome my opponent's own counters, and what are the moves that are more or less punishable, and all of those, you know, is there a parry mechanic? No, Dead or Alive had the parry mechanic, I think. Fight. Okay. Also, I absolutely adore the announcer in this game. Like when you select the character, for some reason, like that crunchiness to his voice. I don't know, like old fucking fighting game announcers are just the best thing ever. I hate it when I say that, actually, best thing ever, because it's such a cliche thing to say that comes from that sort of mid-2010s era of the internet when people with all caps thumbnails, the best whatever ever, best game ever, typically, right? All based on some superfluous feature that doesn't usually pertain to the gameplay. Whoa, did you see that ripple effect? That was sick. Yeah, but I don't know what else to say. Okay, at this point, we're only 3 minutes away from finishing this video, but I don't know. I think that it's fun when you find that game that kind of makes you go, hey, you know what? I like this game. I don't like the genre that much, but I like this game in that genre, right? It's like that one song in a genre you don't like, but you like that song, you know? I really wish I could find something like that for other games. Like, for example, I don't know, the RTS genre, no, I've actually already got some games in the RTS genre that I like, despite not liking RTS games fundamentally. A lot of the Command & Conquer stuff, primarily, and not just because the funny cutscenes, although the cutscenes are pretty funny. It's because the games are really easy to understand, and, you know, Age of Empires 2, and all, yeah, of course. But when it comes to turn-based games, I've played a little bit of Age of Wonders 1, and I've actually done a lot of research into the Age of Wonders games in general. Lots watched of. Yes, I am very dyslexic. Watched lots of reviews and Let's Plays. This incredible guy, Mauve Butterfly, I believe his YouTube name was. He did this awesome retrospective, like a 40-minute retrospective on the first free... Well, technically first four Age of Wonders games before the release of Age of Wonders 4. Fantastic video, highly recommended. And he's done a full playthrough of Age of Wonders, I think both Planetfall and 4 and 2, I think. Not sure if he's done both versions of 2, because there was like Shadow Magic and whatever. I don't know if he's done the first game, though, but there is this really great Let's Play by Bormac, I think his name was. He did Age of Wonders 1, and god, that soundtrack is absolutely insane. Can you tell it was made by the same guy who did the Unreal soundtrack? That's right, Mikhail Vendenbos. Fucking legend. I mean, Alexander Brendan went on to shape the Unreal soundscape a lot more later on, but when I think of Unreal, I think Mikhail Vendenbos, and like that guy. When I think Unreal Tournament, I think Alexander, you know what I mean? So everyone has like their distinct style, but still, and even then, even after diving into those games, I can never even imagine myself doing a video on these games, let alone also just playing them for my own time. Really, I just don't find the idea of clicking on stuff and seeing things happen quite as exciting as actually being in direct control, unless the presentation can absolutely win me over, which some games get close to doing, absolutely. Have you fucking heard the soundtracks to some of the Command & Conquer games? And actually, I still cannot believe that Age of Wonders 2 sounds the way it does. Because it's such an unexpected soundscape. It's like, it's this game set in, you know, those ages, like medieval times or whatever. And you'd think it would be a very acoustic soundtrack, but no. It's like this electronic mix between acoustic instruments, probably sampled, and these very distinct electronic sounds from the late 90s. And it's groovy as shit, and it has so much flavor and taste. It sounds incredible. It's kind of like this game's soundtrack in a way. Well, they're very different stylistically, but in the same way that it's like totally timeless. You know, it didn't even need updating for the remake, although they did a good job with the remade soundtrack, but still, they could have left it the way it was, and it would have sounded just as fresh, because it's fresh as fuck, man. Video games is such fresh-ass music. Speaking of fresh-ass music, this track is so good, too. Ba-dam, birdie. You know, it's so fucking groovy. So, I think that's gonna do it for Tekken Tag Tournament. I can't believe I went through the whole campaign. Oh, actually, I'm not really surprised, because I was on easy mode. What the fuck are you doing? Hey, Hashish, he's like 20 years younger than you. Actually, I'm probably like 40 years younger. Anyway, I have no idea. I don't really know the ages of these characters, and it's one of those few series that actually has like the characters age, and then occasionally unaged for some reason, and I don't know, man. They obviously don't do it for all the characters because you got to keep that box art appeal, if you know what I mean. But still, so that's gonna do it for this episode of Focus on B, the video series where I spend 20 or so minutes playing and talking about a game that, even if I haven't played it in quite some time, I still have been thinking about it since then, and I really enjoy playing it. Actually, I don't really know why I haven't been playing it. And this has been Tekken Tag Tournament, the original PlayStation 2 release. Well, not the absolute original version of the game, but you know, the best way to play the game really today. Although I believe there was like an HD one as well that came bundled with a demo for Tag Tournament 2, I think. I'm not exactly sure. I think that's what it was. But regardless, yeah, I really enjoy this game. It's a game that sort of has that crossover appeal to me, where it's like, I don't really care for fighting games, but I love this game. It's really cool, and I like Tekken quite a bit as a whole. It's probably the series that I've played the highest number of games in the series of fighting games. Apart from, actually no, I'm pretty sure I've still played more of the Mortal Kombats. I mean, I've played all of the classic entries. I've also played all the mid-2000s entries, except I think Armageddon, but I remember some people saying that it really wasn't worth playing. I don't know. I actually don't really mind Armageddon as a concept, having all these characters, and just the lack of fatalities. I don't really care about that too much. I'm over it, right? I haven't played that really shitty DC one because it, I don't know. Actually, is it a bad game? I know people complained that it wasn't as gory or whatever because licensing reasons, but is it actually bad? It looks about the same fighting-wise as the rest, and laid the foundation for what would end up becoming Mortal Kombat 9, which seems to be kind of controversial nowadays, from what I've noticed. But when it came out, it got really good reviews, and because it's a really cool-looking fighting game, and I've played it. Yeah, and not just cool-looking. It is cool because I've played it, and I should know. I've also played 10. One of my friends brought his PS4 over one time, and I played it, and I was like, cool. It's a bit boring, though. It's a little dull, a little too dark, I feel. I think I like my edginess in certain levels. I don't know, well, it's not edgy, it's just kind of dark, but whatever. So, this has been Tekken Tag Tournament, PS2, year 2000.